This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform helping you succeed online. Alright, so this is the OPPO Find X9 Ultra, and this is the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. So these are a couple of the best smartphone camera systems you're going to find here in 2026, so this should be a very good camera comparison. And as far as the key differences, well, they're fairly evenly matched. The Xiaomi has a 1-inch type main sensor, while the OPPO has still a very large, but not quite as large, 1/1.12-inch main sensor. And of course, the main difference here is the telephoto camera setup. The Xiaomi has a single telephoto lens at 75 to 100 millimeter optical zoom range, while the OPPO has implemented a dual telephoto system at 3x, which is I believe 70 millimeters, and another one at 10x, which is 230 millimeters. So it depends if you want that optical zoom range of 75 to 100 that the Xiaomi offers, or you want the flexibility of a dual telephoto longer focal range system of the OPPO. And of course, they both have 50 megapixel ultra wide angle cameras, but the OPPO's is slightly larger ultra wide angle sensor. So if you prefer and care about maybe low light for your ultra wide, maybe the OPPO might be a better fit for you there. But they both have pro camera systems and pro camera software. So I think it's just going to come down to personal preference. Obviously, Xiaomi has partnered with Leica. So if you like the Leica look, you want the Leica color profiles, more like contrasty, shadowy, vignette look, then you might prefer the Xiaomi. But of course, OPPO also has its own color profiles and filters that are built right in. So if you're a pro user, you're going to have a lot of tools at your disposal. You can shoot in RAW to dial in everything to your own color science and your look that you want to go for in your post-processing software, all the way down to a casual shooter. You can still point and shoot and get some really good results because you have some really great hardware combined with some really great software and a lot of color profile options to just default and choose. So you can pick the one that you like and just point and shoot, and you're going to get really good results from either of these camera systems. And so this is now a portrait video on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and movie mode on the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. So you should be seeing this artificial background blur here, and they're both fully adjustable. They're both set to an aperture of f/1.4 to get you the most depth of field here that I can get in this particular setting. But of course, you can adjust that to be as more or less blurry as you want depending on your scene and your tastes. But like I always do, I'm going to show you a bunch of photos and videos in both good and low light conditions so you can see for yourself which of these two camera systems are going to be best for your smartphone camera needs. So go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think. However, just a quick break from the video to remind you that having a personal or business website is a great way to organize and centralize your online content and activity, from news posts to blog posts to social media activity to any content that you produce like photos or videos. So if that sounds good to you, then today's sponsor, Squarespace, definitely has you covered. Simply sign up for a free trial, then use their Blueprint AI website builder to put together your website in minutes, or select from their library of templates to get started. It's easy to pull in content from YouTube, Instagram, other social sites, and even your own photos and videos. Quickly add your social media links to quickly display them on your site as well. It's also easy to add and customize an online form for people and brands to easily reach out and contact you. And when you're ready to publish your website, go to squarespace.com/grantlikestech for 10% off your first website or domain. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video, which helps me bring you more content like this. So let's go ahead and get back to the video. Hey everyone, so this is a video test of the rear cameras of the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and Xiaomi 17 Ultra. As you can see, they both are actively recording from the rear facing cameras. And today we're starting out with the ultra wide angle cameras on each at 4K 60 frames per second. So I'm just going to pan around here so you get a side-by-side view of how these ultra wide angle cameras compare in this particular scene here in the park. So we got some blues, greens, and reds to test. So a lot of good basic colors here. See how it handles exposure from here panning up. And then we'll go ahead and move into the main cameras on the OPPO and on the Xiaomi. So this is now the main cameras on each. Obviously the same spot, so I'm just gonna do the same thing, pan around, give you a side-by-side view of how these main cameras compare. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll pan up and see if it adjusts the exposure at all. Nothing too bad there. We'll pan over here to the right. And then we'll test zoom out on that cell tower. So 3x telephoto there on the OPPO. Variable telephoto here on the Xiaomi, so that's 3.2x. And then this is a variable all the way up to a 4.3. And then we also have another separate 10x telephoto here on the OPPO. And then we can move into a similar focal length there on the Xiaomi. We'll try to get these lined up a little better. There we go. And then we'll move all the way up to a max 30x zoom on the OPPO. And we'll try to move into a max 30x here on the Xiaomi as well. And we'll pan up a little bit and then pan down a little bit. So both pretty clear, but looking a little bit steadier on the OPPO. And then we'll back out to 1x on the Xiaomi, and we'll go to the main camera 1x here on the OPPO. And we'll test autofocus on the post first with the OPPO. So it focuses up, you can see nice shallow depth of field or natural bokeh background blur. Refocus pretty quick. And away one more time with the OPPO. And then now with the Xiaomi, same thing. So there you go, focus and away, one more time. So there you go, focused up pretty quickly the second time and one more time, and same thing, pretty nice natural bokeh, shallow depth of field as well. And we'll go ahead and test stabilization as we walk down the stairs here and walk through the pathway. You see how that light transition from the really bright to the shaded area here. And then I'll go ahead and try to jog to stress out the stabilization. So there you go, quick video test of the rear cameras here on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and the Vivo, or on the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Let me know what you think. Everyone, so we're back with the rear facing cameras, this time with portrait video. So you should be seeing this artificial background blur right now, and it is fully adjustable. This is set to an aperture of f/2.8 on each, so you can make this as wide or narrow of an aperture or as blurry or less blurry as you want. But I'm starting out in the shade so you can see what this looks like with some fairly even light. Nothing too harsh on me right now, but I'll move out into the afternoon sunlight and have it shining more directly on me so you can see what that looks like with some really harsh light on me. And I'll just keep panning around so you can see what this looks like in the changing lighting conditions and how the effect looks and holds up with more off my left and now with it more directly behind me. And then I'll have it shine directly into those cameras right now. Bring it back up and we'll keep panning around. So now it's going to be more off of my right, and we'll pan all the way around to where we started. And I'll just walk so we can see how this effect holds up with some movement. So let me know what you think about this portrait video effect here on the rear cameras of the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Alright, so here's a test of the front-facing cameras on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and Xiaomi 17 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second, and the OPPO is in the ultra-wide camera mode at 0.8x. I can move it into a full 1x there, so you can see it compared to the Xiaomi there. and you can crop into a 2x on the front facing camera there. So if you want a really tight frame, you can do that on the OPPO's front facing camera. But we'll move this back to a 1x right there. And I'm obviously starting out in the shade, so pretty even lighting. So you can see what this looks like here in some fairly optimal lighting, nothing too harsh. But I'll step out into the sun so you can see what this looks like with the sun shining directly on me right now. Really strong afternoon sunlight. And I'll just rotate the camera around so you can see what this looks like as the lighting conditions change. So it's now more off of my left, and pan all the way around so it's now more directly behind me and now shining more into the sun. You can see it right up there, up top, and bring it back here. And we'll keep rotating around, panning around all the way to where we started, and I'll just walk so we can test the stabilization. And you can see what that looks like side by side, and we'll move in and out of the sunlight so you can see how it handles the changing lighting conditions as well. So let me know what you think about the front-facing cameras here on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. So we're back with the front-facing cameras, this time at portrait video, so you should be seeing this artificial background blur. And just to note that in this mode, when you have this blur effect on, the Xiaomi is limited to 1080p 30 frames per second, and the OPPO will be limited to 4K 30 frames per second, so no 60 frames per second recording, but you do have the 4K option here on the OPPO. And so obviously I'm in the shade. This is some pretty even light and what this effect will look like, but again, I'll step out into the sun and have it shine directly on me. So you can see what the effect looks like here with some maximum afternoon sunlight. And this effect does tend to require a good amount of light, but this is maybe harsh light. But I'll keep rotating and panning the camera so you can see what this looks like as the lighting conditions change again with this portrait video effect on. You can see now probably looking maybe some of the best here, even though the sun is behind me. It's not directly into the cameras as of now. Background's better exposed, but shining directly into the camera lens right now. And we'll keep panning around. So it's going to be now more off of my right. And we'll go all the way back to where we started, and I'll just walk so we can test the stabilization and see how this background effect holds up with some movement. So let me know what you think about this portrait video effect here from the front-facing cameras on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and Xiaomi 17 Ultra. So here's a low light video test of the rear cameras of the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and Xiaomi 17 Ultra. This is the ultra wide angle cameras on each at 4K 60 frames per second. So I'm just going to pan around here in the same scene to give you a side-by-side view of how these ultra wide angle cameras compare. And the ultra wide angle sensor is larger on the OPPO. It's going to let in more light, so it should be looking a bit brighter. but also the Xiaomi is on like a standard mode right now, so that's the color profile. And so it's going to look a little bit more natural, so it's a little bit darker, more true to life at night. If you want to look brighter, you can change that color profile to something like a Vivid. It'll brighten things up. But I think this is looking definitely natural, pretty close to what I'm seeing with my own eyes, to be honest, on the Xiaomi. But you can change that around with the color profiles there if you want. But let's go to the main camera on the OPPO and the main camera on the Xiaomi. And here the Xiaomi has the full 1-inch type sensor, which is slightly larger than the main sensor on the OPPO, but they're both nice and bright, as you can see there. You can see both the tree lines really brightened up. Not as much of a difference in the OPPO, just because the ultra-wide-angle sensor is already pretty big, but definitely on the Xiaomi there. A lot of definition in the trees in that night sky now with the main cameras, a lot more light being let in. So I'm just panning around so you get a side-by-side view. The same scene with the main cameras now, how that compares to the ultra-wide-angle that you just saw. You can see how they handle that really bright street light, and we even tried the zoom here in some low light, so 3x telephoto there on the Xiaomi and the 70mm 3.2x zoom on the telephoto zoom on the Xiaomi. And of course the Xiaomi has the variable or the optical zoom up to 100mm there on the same lens. And we can go into the 10x telephoto here on the OPPO, so dual telephoto on the OPPO, 3 and 10x, single telephoto on the Xiaomi with a 75 to 100mm optical range. And then we can move this into roughly about 10x here as well on the Xiaomi, and it can go all the way up to a 30x zoom, and so can the OPPO, so both 30x zoom right there. And we'll just hold it right there. You can compare side by side the clarity and the zoom range of the signs. We'll kind of pan down a little bit on each. Hard to line them up here, but you can see there on the Xiaomi, and there we go on the OPPO. We'll try to get the top sign, and then we'll back them both out here, so 1x on the Xiaomi and on the OPPO, and we'll just pan around and we'll just start walking so I can show you the stabilization side by side, as well as move over to a area with less light. Obviously plenty of light back there, less light as I go down this pathway. And then as you round the corner, there'll be a really bright light, so you can kind of see how it handles bright to darker to bright. You can already see that light peeking out as we come around the corner here. But then I'll go ahead and pull up and pan down the corridor here. So there will be some cast off from that bright light to the right, but not overall as bright. It's actually pretty dark down this corridor, and both cameras are brightening things up here. And I'll go ahead and pan up into the night sky so you can see what this looks like. There is light pollution in the area, so you may see some noise because of that. And we'll pan back around this way and back down the corridor again. And so let me know what you think about the 4K 60 frames per second footage here at night on both the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. So here's a low light video test of the front facing cameras of the OPPO X9 Ultra and Xiaomi 17 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second, and the OPPO is in the ultra wide angle camera mode. I can move it into a standard 1x right there, so it's more in line with what you're seeing with the Xiaomi. And the OPPO also has a 2x digital crop on that front facing sensor, so you can get a really tight framing if you want. But I'll move it back out to the standard 1x right there, and we'll move over to this area here so you can see what this looks like here with a bunch of lights around me, so some pretty ideal low light conditions. So you can see how these front facing cameras can perform at some pretty optimal conditions here with all the lighting around me. But you can see what it does with the really bright street light and how that handles and affects the camera performance here, and both are handling that pretty well. And obviously in this lighting situation they both look pretty good, and to be honest, it's a lot brighter than other phones front-facing cameras that I see shooting in 60 frames per second. Most of them at 60 frames will be much darker than what I'm seeing here from both of these phones, so both looking fairly well. But I'll just start walking so we can test the stabilization and show you what it looks like here side by side, as well as move over to an area with a little bit less light. So once we get to about here, a lot of that light goes away, and you can see what it looks like here in a less than ideal lighting situation. And we'll pan all the way around so you can see what this looks like here with a bunch of those straight lights shining more into the camera, and both are handling that fairly well. And we'll just come back here and show you what this looks like here in this area where there are no lights. You can see what this looks like side by side in some less than ideal lighting conditions. A lot of kind of dingy lighting or warm lighting, so not the best lighting here. So you can see what this looks like, and both I think are handling this very well. I've seen other front-facing cameras look much worse, much darker, much grainier. So I think both of these are looking fairly well. Maybe a little bit better colors for my taste on the OPPO, but let me know what you think here. I think both of these look pretty good compared to other front-facing cameras that I've seen in this exact same scene. So let me know what you think about the camera comparison between the OPPO Find X9 Ultra and the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. A couple of the best smartphone camera systems here in 2026, and I don't think you can go wrong with either. Personally, the differences will come down to obviously the telephoto setup. You're going to have a single telephoto lens on the Xiaomi 17 Ultra with that variable 75 to 100 millimeter focal length optical zoom, or you have a dual telephoto setup on the OPPO at 3x 70 millimeter or the 10x 230 millimeter. So you have a little bit more flexibility with the dual lenses, but you get that singular optical zoom range on the Xiaomi, although it's fairly narrow from 75 to 100. So you'll have to decide for yourself if that's important, or would you rather have the longer focal range on the dual telephoto setup of the OPPO. But otherwise, they both have great main cameras. Obviously, the Xiaomi has a larger 1-inch type sensor, but the OPPO does have a close to 1-inch sensor in itself, so very capable, very good sensor too. Both ultra-wide cameras are pretty good, although OPPO has the much larger sensor there, so if you value low light ultra wide, maybe that's important for you. And then it's going to come down to the color science and the color profiles and setups that both these cameras have. So obviously Xiaomi's partnered with Leica, so you're going to have a lot of the Leica color profiles, so you're going to have to like the Leica look, a lot more contrasty, shadowy type of a look, vignette kind of a look, which I do like. It's very nice to me. I do like those setups. And of course OPPO has a ton of filters built into it. But I do like the color profile specific that Xiaomi has built in. It makes it very accessible, and the filters are nice on OPPO. So I think color profile wise, color filter wise, you know, I lean towards Xiaomi, but they both have a lot of options to make color options out of the camera very accessible to even casual shooters. Obviously these are both tailored to even pro users, so if you want to shoot in RAW, you can color grade and adjust your photos and your videos in post-production software to get the exact look you're looking for anyway. And so I think if you're a professional, you'll be very happy with not only the camera hardware, but also with the software to be able to dial things in exactly how you want. And I think if you're a professional, you'll be able to get any kind of quality that you want from most cameras, but these I think you'll be very satisfied with. As a point and shoot user, don't be intimidated by each of these. I think these are going to give you even better results than you would from any other typical smartphone. Even out of the gate, you just select a color that you really like, and I think you're going to get really good results because you have really superior hardware combined with some really nice software, as well as a lot of nice color options for even the casual shooter. So that's pretty much my initial thoughts, or my kind of quick take here on both of these phones. I don't think you can go wrong with either. It's going to come down to preference and some of the differences that I just pointed out there. So let me know what you think and which one you would personally prefer. If you've tried both of these, let me know which one you preferred using. If you just saw the results or you've seen other reviews, let me know which one of these phones you also prefer. If you have any other questions or comments, drop them down below. I'll try to answer what I can. And as always, thanks for watching.